Yeah, so I wanted to have our guest on to discuss basically the situation right now as it's unfolded. There's been a couple things going on this past week in the conflict in Ukraine with Russia. Of course, we discuss this pretty much every time we're on the show because it's such a big conflict and it really touches on what's been going on for years and what we've been talking about on the show for years. And with us, we have our good friend, Igor. And Igor is the author. He's an author, director, producer of also Ukraine on Fire and the documentary Snowden. And he also has a new documentary that is out, the Ukraine War and Peace. And if I can, I will try to get that trailer up. If we can find like some sort of link, we can try to get that teaser trailer out as well, Igor. But welcome and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Fiorella. Snowden was a feature film, not a documentary, and I was a producer only, one of executive producer on that film. But everything else is right. And I did Ukraine on Fire.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so thank you for the correction. I appreciate it. And I actually haven't seen that yet. So
it was great, Sam.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, so it's great. Okay, good review. Pasta is a film guy as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's fun to see like stuff that the stuff that we are into, to get to see that like in a feature film. And I keep forgetting the guy's name who was the lead who played Snowden, kid from 30 Rock, right? Whatever his name was. Did a really good job.
Gordon-Levitt.
That dude, yes. That dude, yeah. Joseph Gordon-Levitt played Snowden. He did a really good job. I thought I really, for me, what I got out of that whole movie was the fact that there is like people behind the scenes pulling strings. We have puppet masters that make all the calls. We might not know their faces. We might see the policymakers. But for me, that movie really put a whole kind of face to behind what's going on in the scene and who's pulling all the strings. I thought they did a really good job. I'm really surprised Hollywood let them release that. So
nobody let us release that. We released it our own. First of all, we did the Sony in the very beginning because we closed the budget earlier than Sony finished the script. That's if you, the Hollywood guy, if you understand. The Sony is a big power player, and we was just a couple of guys, army of Oliver Stone. And I need to say that Moritz and Oliver did a great job. Moritz was a producer and Oliver was a director. For me, that movie opened up the A-League. After Snowden release, I come to the really highest flying directors and producers, and a lot of problem because of that.
Yeah.
But, I love the film. I love Edward, his position, who sacrificed himself, his life, his family life, his everything what we have, even country, everything what he have, he sacrificed to let us know what we are under complete surveillance 24/7. First time listened to word FISA in that film. Now I believe I have 3 outstanding FISA on me because of my movies and because of my anti-war position and anti-Nazi position about regime Zelensky. But I don't care because, I'm working for the peace. I'm working for my audience. I want to enlighten them and I want to let them understand what is going on, why it's a war raging, who is behind this war, who started that war. It's still a lot of mainstream position was completely out of touch with reality, propagated to the heads, propagated to the people's minds, carefully constructed, planted, developed, and amplified. And this is what's scaring me more than anything else, because if you can manipulate Ukraine, you probably can manipulate everyone, even United States. I know only one country when it's hard. Oh no, I knew few countries. First of all, this is China. Second of all, it's Russia, and overall it's going. So Belarus, Iran, etc., etc. So all this new kids on the block. That's very hard to manipulate the brains of their citizens because they are aware, they know we're gonna do this, we're gonna try hard, and we try hard and nothing work. This is why we still concentrating on Ukraine and the United States as a two. And Ukraine and United States, believe me or not, this is related like that. To stop the war in Ukraine, you cannot do this without the election changes and result in the United States. I don't know if Greg the Democrat or Republican. I'm diehard Republican and diehard MAGA. So this is my position.
I don't know if you know this, Igor. We're election integrity specialists. That's our game.
Oh.
So I speak at the American Project, which is Patrick Burns' thing. I speak to MAGA people all the time. And I'm about 90% of the way there. I just wish that your crowd would stop blaming China for everything and start looking within their own arm's length. But these elections, believe you me, there's a video out there floating. These elections are not fair. And it's not just about getting Democrats in office. It's about also getting establishment Republicans. Because let's make something straight. All the dirty stuff with the Democrats, with FTX, funneling money back into Ukraine, Republicans, establishment Republicans played a part because they were silent about stuff. They also took money. And Ukraine would never be a thing if it wasn't for Lindsey Graham and John McCain going over there in 2014 just barking. So everybody has a part to play. I think it's the important thing. And this is what your movie showed me, that it's not just about Republicans and Democrats. It's about the establishment working together.
This is the game of the elephant and donkey, who is actually both working for the same as a director of one big show to show to American people, to stage them to believe that's at 50-50%. And this is very close, and they have a right to choose. They have a right to win or to lose. Sorry, this is one business. It's all about money. It's all about power, and it's all about manipulation of my fellow Americans and fellow Ukrainians and entire world to the only reason: to make more money to their pockets. That's it.
Igor, are you Ukrainian or Russian? I'm sorry, I'm not
Ukrainian. Yeah,
Ukrainian.
I'm Ukrainian.
Okay.
I was actually historically factual. I was born in the Soviet Union. I'm in my nationality in my passport was Belarusian. I was born and grown up in Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. When Soviet Union collapsed, I got Ukrainian passport. After that, 2008, I started working for American company when I was 19, and I moved to United States. And to the 2008, I proceeded to be American citizen in 2016. In 2021, I got the Russian passport because it was much more convenient to travel in Russia with a Russian passport than with Ukrainian or with American. So I belong to the globe, to the world. I'm citizen of the world, as my teacher, dear master, and my dear friend and partner Oliver Stone.
So my question to you is, how, as somebody that has roots in Ukraine, did that affect this conflict? Because most of the time, most Ukrainians that I know have fallen obviously on the side of Ukraine, which is to me, it's just so simplistic to talk about sides because of the relationship between Ukraine and Russia as brother nations, as so many people having friends and family on either side of the border. Of most people here that I've talked to in Moscow who don't want any sort of hurt going on to the Ukrainian people, who really hate this and who wish peace to come, and who have friends and relatives that live in Ukraine, etc. How has that perspective been for you, especially in regard to the film Ukraine on Fire, as to what drove you to focus on that particular event and everything that happened after?
First of all, it's very painful for me because free of country, what I can call homeland, fatherland, or motherland, and the spiritual homeland, fighting in Ukraine now. My brother-in-law was killed probably, or he was disappeared on 16th of September. I know him very little, but I tried to find him in a Russian captivity, in a Russian jail, and unsuccessfully. So you know that's how that related to me. I was grown up by my mother, who was the invalid of World War II. She lost her right hand because of landmine in a World War II when she was 14. So for us, biggest problem, biggest fear was a war, because 27 million people, Soviet Union, sacrificed their life to liberate the world and Europe from the Nazi scum. But for me to see how Russians fighting Russians in Ukraine, this is exactly how I perceive this, because on the both sides of front, people speak in same language. And this is why it's so hard to win for Russians or to Ukrainians, because they're similar. They have one skill inside, they're good fighters. But for me, not this most, horrible things. Most horrible for me, this is a foreign power who make it happen. And this foreign power, it's by another country. This is the United States of America. Don't make it take it seriously. We did this war for this land. We projected and we run it, we arrange it, and we financing this, and we're gonna lose this. This is no pride for United States. It's another proxy war. Vietnam left no sense of victory. Vietnam left a sense of, disaster. A lot of people was affected. Now it's different, but it's complicated things. It's because war is as a dialectical. This is inseparable part of our human being evolution. We're all the time going to war. This time is different. This time we can go to the war. It will be our last war, and the next war we're gonna fight with the stones. Not with Oliver stones, but with regular stone, with a stone hammer. That's what scared me.
Igor, I got to say, I think you're wrong about one thing. You said America is going to lose the war, right? The proxy war. I don't think so, because not so much America, the citizens, because we're going to lose out, because we can see we're using all our tax dollars to fund this craziness. I mean, literally right now there was a shooting in Colorado, and you have a bunch of Democratic shitlibs screaming to take away guns from their citizens, but then have a Ukrainian flag bio, and they don't care about how many weapons are sent to Ukraine. And I used to say that a lot of people involved don't care who wins the war. They don't care who loses the war. All they care is that they have the war, because then the military-industrial complex, all these other entities will get a black market, make a ton of money. Forget about it. Their stocks are probably going through the roof. Is there a sense from Ukrainians on both sides of this conflict that might be like, look, we have our problems with Mother Russia. Some of us like, some of us dislike. But at the end of the day, the United States should stay the hell out of it. Is there that feeling that goes around for many Ukrainians that you might speak about back home with?
Not at all. Ukrainians don't feel this way. They feel completely different. They feel that's United States saving them. They feel if United States abandoning them, they're gonna be losing the war to Putin in 3 weeks, because it's definitely will happen. And so they praying for the Joe Biden and staying in power, or because they don't believe that President Trump, if he's gonna be elected, gonna continue this, or they even don't believe that the House of Representatives, who is now look like Republican, gonna keep sending them money and the weapons. They very afraid of this. And you know what? I see the signs of this in the mainstream media. I see that in the Financial Times and the Daily Mail and other outlets, what you cannot call the progressive or the people voices. It's a complete mainstream media outlets. So they start dumping Zelensky, look like, for me. I'm sorry, maybe I'm wrong. I read in a lot, but maybe I'm wrong in my perception. But Ukrainians, no, they don't remember. They completely brainwashed for this. And the last things what happened in Ukraine, starting from February, that's even solidify this is brainwash. But what's a good sign? After you turn off the Ukrainian brainwashing machine and brainwashing machine stop using the television and in social networks, etc., in a 6 month, people start thinking critically. They say, oh, Russians is not a bad people. They giving us food. They're rebuilding our cities. They take caring about us. And this is what's happened in all this area, and Zaporozhye, Kherson, and liberated Lugansk, Donetsk, Mariupol. So the people, as soon as they don't have, this is like huge machine what's working with their brain, like, they start to be conscious again, at least in 6 months. That's giving me hope, because I'm working on this unzombing people with my films. But doesn't matter how many good movies or good literature you're gonna screen or to read out loud to the Nazi, it still will be Nazi. You need to do something with the sword. You need to kill the Nazi before you can liberate people who is not a Nazi under Nazi oppression, because it's not such a big numbers of neo-Nazi in Ukraine, but they commanding, they in control, they keeping Zelensky from anything what he probably want to do, but he cannot. And on the other side, they using this as a tool against Russia, and they actually used as a tool in the propaganda war. It's not a propaganda. This is informational influence operation, and it's a bigger and more dangerous weapon than nuclear bomb.
I wanted to ask you this question that keeps coming up, because we have so many people in the West who call themselves anti-imperialist and who say, well, because we're anti-imperialist, we're anti-war, we don't think Russia had the right to invade Ukraine. This is how they see it. And obviously, Russia sees it as a special military operation to denazify the Donbass area, to stop the murders of the people of the Donbass that have been going there for nearly 9 years. And of course, to also stop NATO's eastward expansion, which was completely disregarded by NATO and obviously Ukraine through the complete trampling of the Minsk Accords that they seem to have zero desire to follow through. So this whole thing, there's this segment that says, well, even then, Russia did not have the authority to intervene. What do you say to those people in terms of why Russia did this? Did they have a choice, in your opinion?
First of all, the war, we need to study when war was started. War was started in 2014, right? After coup in Kiev, they go to the war with their own people. It was limited in the beginning, that's grown more and more. And that's what Putin started doing in the 24th of February. This is not the beginning of war. This is finishing the war. He has enough of this mess. He wants to finish it because he understands where it's going to lead. And that war, that's actually what we're trying to explain in our new documentary, what's called Ukraine, War and Peace, because we're trying to say people to explain why Russia's goal to invade in Ukraine, why Russia choose to protect the people of Donbass, who nobody remembering that 14,000 of civilians was killed in Donbass, and that big megapolises, million people living in Donetsk was shelling on a regular basis. Innocent kids was dying, innocent women was dying, old people. This was a beginning of war. And Ukraine started war against their own people. And when what is that neoliberalism is, it's a theory what you can bomb Yugoslavia without any international law or international body like United Nations letting you do this, just because you feel moral to do so. So now the Biden administration and entire collective West receiving the very, very clever answer. That's a neoliberalism, it's a bullshit, and never was a moral principle for people who's in. But what they did in Yugoslavia, what they did to Serbia, what they did to how they pronounced the Kosovo of independent can be repeated in any part of the world by sovereign nations who has the all rights over their territory. And you know what? This calling all this anti-war movement existing, this bullshit, because George Soros buyout after Iraq war everybody in a progressive anti-war movement. That guy was investing heavily right after Iraq. He financed all progressive anti-war and anti-imperialistic movement. He just simply buy it out. So they not exist. They're stooges of Soros. And this is a common fact. People who are familiar with that, they know this.
Yeah, I think they think sometimes, Igor, that it's cool to throw George Soros' name out when there's corruption going on overseas and whatnot. But when it comes to Ukraine, George Soros funded a lot of that independent media, which pushed for this color revolution in Ukraine. Am I correct on that? I believe that's what Ukraine Under Fire showed, right?
Yes. We showed it in Ukraine on Fire. We showed that in the Revealing Ukraine, our sequel for the film. We also now under direct threat and direct hit from the organization of Soros outlet OCCRP, who is hitting us for our previous film about Kazakhstan. And personally, me, we don't care. First of all, we know who funding them. We know why they so dedicated to stop us, so dedicated to destroy our reputation, because they don't like our films. They don't like what we exposing them, what we making they dealings public. And they trust me, they also operate in the United States. They operate in a huge scale. That Soros who financing the attorneys we're part of Los Angeles disaster, my hometown, was the Soros fault, because Soros gave the money for that guy who's now the attorney general in Los Angeles, who is you know who I'm talking about. That's why the Los Angeles infested with a crime, and the crime wave is an unbelievable level. Every day I'm receiving the messages about shooting here, robbery here, assault with a assaulting weapon. And trust me, this is gonna be even more worse. I'm expecting something more, because you cannot defund the police and hell, Los Angeles PD, and after that demand from them to people on the street to behave. No, that people don't want to behave. They need to be restrained. This is United States, the police state. If you're not policing, I don't know. I was crying so badly when I see that when they delivering that poor guy, black dude, the drug addict and criminal who was killed by police or die in a police hand. We don't know that because nobody investigated from the point of view. What if it was just the special cover-up operation to ignite the movement and to hit up the electorate before election of 2020? To put people on the street.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think that's a little bit of a far stretch. I do think that was a really messed up situation. I thought it was definitely racially motivated. I mean, I don't want to get into the crux of that because I do have a nuanced opinion about that, Igor, because I understand why people, I can't understand why people won't get in the street for other reasons, for war, as much as that, why they're just so ticked off about, one situation, which is a disgusting situation, but there are many other situations in the United States which bring us together and get us in the streets, and it doesn't work. The people are divided. And I think that's when it comes to the George Floyd situation, I understand the anger from people, but I'd like to see it in other areas as well. But that's what it is. And here's the thing too, as well. They had a relationship beforehand that the mainstream media kept out. They knew each other. And I think that's something important to kind of bring about that nobody talks about, but that's beside the point. I want to follow up really quickly with that question I was talking about, your film, Ukraine Under Fire. There's one point now, you talked about the way people in 2014, that's the start of the war, right, Igor? Now people are starting to go back and look what happens. But what they're trying to say is that Yanukovych was a very pro-Russian president. In your film, it seemed like you guys laid it out. He didn't seem to be so much pro-Russian, but more like neutral and observing both sides of the EU deal and the Russian deal to come up with a great deal. And in that movie, you pretty much said it was the deal that the EU was offering in which made Yanukovych say, nah, this is not good for Ukraine. I'm going to stick over here with this. Is that
little bit comment? I want to do detailed analysis of this. This deal with European Union Association was a trade deal. This deal was originated from Ukraine, not from European Union. That's Ukraine who won this deal. Why? Because the oligarchs in the area of Donetsk, especially Mr. Rinat Akhmetov, who was the biggest and richest man, and this time like a 20 billions of something, he calculated the way if we'll open up the European market for Ukrainian steel products, what he producing, and he will still have access to Russian energy, that will be a benefit and advantage in his business dealing. So he started pumping money and influence in the Yanukovych head to ignite and initiate movement to the Europe, to the association with Europe. And Russia was not against that. Russia just said them, listen, you have an open border with us, you have a free custom trade with Russia, and we negotiate very, very long time, 15 years, with the World Trade Organization. So to open up the Ukrainian border with Russia, to keep Russian-Ukrainian border open and open up Europe, that will go like, like a back door. You can put everything into the Russia without any custom duty, and you can export everything out of Russia. So that was not negotiated with Russia. Russia demand to be part of this negotiation. European Union say no. Why? Because that deal benefit European Union more than Ukraine. Yanukovych demand a lot of financial help, billions and billions. Like, the Poland, I believe, was financed in the level of 100 billions for joining European Union, when Poland did exactly the same, and especially initial stage. So Europe was not ready to give Ukraine money. Oh, they given that now, but this is like too late because Ukraine is already the Fourth Reich. I want you guys understand that was not so bad under Yanukovych. I worked for him in the government of 2000 when I was working in the Ukrainian government in my hometown, Dnipropetrovsk. I was not very big fan, but when I meet him in my film set, he opened up. Oliver can do this. You know what? When Oliver interviewed him on the 27th minute, I was directing this. I hear Oliver and I go, oh my God, that guy just will stand up and run away. No, he stay and he answering all questions. He has no paper in front of him. 4 hours. 4 hours. So I believe in every word because you cannot memorize the answers. You cannot. So he was really don't understanding why the United States violate international law. And Oliver was like, Oliver was pissed off because of this statement. You believe we take care about law in Afghanistan or Iraq? We take care about how people live together in Vietnam? No, we come, we bomb, we destroy, and we establish. And before that, we set up the tension. And after that, we divide and conquer. So we empire of chaos. Yeah, Yanukovych was giving us a huge insights on the Biden role into this, and especially on Victoria Nuland role in this so-called revolution of dignity. Can you imagine how the level of hypocrisy you need to have to call the bloody coup initiated and with the local oppositions who is actually criminals who understand they're going to sit in a jail forever, and immediately the State Department and all these vultures like Soros and etc. and the National Endowment for Democracy, USAID, and all that Marshall funds and Ford funds jump on this and like fill it with the money. You know, that was a situation when 20 million was delivered in a plane, and from the airfield was delivered to United States Embassy, and it was in a small bills, like at 20s and 50s, 10s. So because they use it for the day-by-day salary people who is protesting on Maidan. And they also start using this bloody technology of sacred victim. This is why I was mentioning George Floyd, because to be in a camera for like a 40 second, this is a little bit way too long for just accidental filming. This sounds for me like setup. And but apotheose of these things in Kiev happened in February 2021, when they start killing people. They start killing protesters and killing policemen on the main square, Maidan, and the Institutskaya Street. But they set up the camera first. They set up the cameras. They invite the journalists to stay in this position and be ready. And after that, they sent protesters to the stage. And after that, deployed and prepared snipers started to killing them to produce the picture. That was happening in Kiev. That's a bloody coup. This is the biggest special operation running by CIA and by all the so-called voluntary activist / James Bond, wannabe James Bond operators. And they all do bloody things in Ukraine, yeah. And this is how this war started. Not even in 2014 in Donetsk, but on the main street of Kiev, killing the protesters. They killing their own people in the back, in the cold blood, and they just was said, it's not enough casualties. You need to produce 100. And they was said in the American embassy. And we have that. This is not my words. This is not. We reveal it in a sequel. If you watch Revealing Ukraine, you will see who said that. This is Ukrainian nationalist who was writing the book, a memoir about the Maidan, and he revealed how they was visiting the United States Embassy, and how they was discussing why the media of West not helping them enough. But I said, because there's not enough victims. You need to kill 100 at least. And they go and they kill 50. They cannot kill hundreds because the snipers ran away because they were scared. So they falsificate the numbers. They put in this list everyone, people who die from the anaphylactic shock, or people who hang himself on a Christmas tree. This is how bad it was on a spiritual and an energy level. And in the middle of this Maidan, and this not established properly Christmas tree, inside of that Christmas tree, man hang himself. He was put on the list of heavily 100 people who was bloody killed by Yanukovych. This is it. This is the beginning of war.
So you're saying they manufactured consent for
correct
the intervention through killing their own people, which is a hefty accusation, but the CIA has done that time and time again in other countries. So
yeah, they do it all the they're very skillful in this.
Yeah.
They try to
go ahead.
Oh, you know, we studied it. Go ahead, Greg. Go.
No. Were you asking, Fee, were you going for me to go ahead or for Igor to go ahead?
I was saying Igor, but you can go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was saying, Igor, go ahead. I have a question after, but please continue. I mean, you were saying about the whole CIA. Yeah, they do it all the time. It's easy. It's a normal thing. Please continue on that.
Yeah, it's a great investigator and man of honor, the scientist, political scientist who live for Ukrainian by the roots, who's a Canadian citizen, Professor Ivan Kachanovsky, who's living in Toronto and who studied this a lot, and he was doing this investigation we start collaborating with him. You know, I sent to Kiev my team to gather that precise scientific data on the Maidan shooting. We deployed the very unique equipment, what's called Leica, the optical volumetric system, what's used in a forensic team in the United States and around the world. We did the measurement right after the shooting in the month of March, and we have that unique 180 gigabytes of data with all leftovers. And what Ivan Kachinovsky did, he analyzed the sound with a special, because you know, when you shoot in the firearm, assault rifle in a big city, and you know the geometry of how to say, the buildings surrounding the square, you can calculate very carefully. You can triangulate where is the source of this sound was. So the whole scientific study showing totally different picture. You know what? This was 8 years passed from this time. That's investigation still in court, and it's such a mess. The bullets disappearing or appearing, so chain of evidence is broken. So bullets change in the caliber. You know, the bullets disappearing out of what's the evidence of that protesters killing by protesters, disappearing out of the investigation. This is a mess. They covering up their own tails. They covering up this. They don't want to finish that. They blame in the Berkut, the special forces of Ukrainian police. I talked to the leader of, to the man who lead the police in this time, General Zakharchenko. He's a man of honor. And he was ready to do everything to protect his country with his law enforcement. But law enforcement has an order, do not have the firearms. They was not armed. On the day when the killings happened, that the law enforcement was a 3,000 or 4,000 of them. They was principally with only with the buttons, with nothing else. So they don't have Kalashnikovs. They don't have the handguns. They have nothing to kill other people. But the special forces of police emerge only in the very end, when for 1 hour, 7 policemen was killed by the sniper. You know, that sniper is known. That's a Ukrainian guy who come public in the 4 years, and he revealed on camera that he was sitting in a conservatory building with a sniper rifle and killing the policemen. He said how he targeted them. He said what part of the body he hit with bullets. So this was obviously that they will start killing the police. This is why the special force of police was deployed to protect the evacuation of police from Maidan. And after that, they go and they give them firearms, and they was ready to fight on the 21st, but it was too late already, because the mob, they already gathered that parliament building and the presidential administration and the residence of Yanukovych. So they say that's a coup. This is no revolution. They deliver the muscles. They establish that media presence. They manipulate the minds of people with a secret victim, and they change the government. You mentioned that scam, McCain. He was bragging on his institute front page. That was his biggest win, biggest operation. What he achieved. I think he's feeling good in the hell.
Him and Lindsey Graham over there yapping with a bunch of Azov Battalion Nazis, thinking that they're. It was so bizarre to see that McCain, the war hero, Nazis in World War II and Vietnam, all this shit. Now,
wait a sec. What kind of war hero McCain was? He bombed his own carrier. He killed more than 150 American Navy office people. How he was a war? After that, he was captured and sit in a hole and was tortured by Viet Cong and probably lost his mind. This is how Putin described him. I feel sad about this guy. He has a lot of trouble in his life. This is why he behaved so badly.
Yeah. Igor, that was just the marketing. That was the marketing behind it. It was that he was this hero, and that's why he was the voice of reason. He was like, this guy is standing up to Trump. They love that stuff about him. My last question to you, Igor, is this. You're the first time to come on our show. I hope you have it again. I'd love to talk to you more about election stuff. I know Sean Stone is into election stuff. We've had conversations. I'm deep down that hole. Yeah, he's awesome. He's been on both shows before these shows. We hope to have him on again soon. But the other Igor we talked about is another Igor that we found out was hanging out in Washington, not in Washington, in California with Adam Schiff, Igor Pasternak. What do you know about this guy, Igor Pasternak? And since we've mentioned him so many times on the show, can you give us a little insight to what you know about Igor Pasternak? That's my last question.
I actually know nothing about him. Only one thing what I can share. If you're hanging out with Adam Schiff, you're probably a shitty man. So this is my, that's it. I know nothing about the guy, but Shifty Shift, he is an operative who tried to be presenting himself as a politician. And he is like a scum on the earth. He is the one and the man who needs to be prosecuted for running the coup against sitting president of the United States. That's what his violation is. He is a criminal. He ran the coup together with all Obama staff and all Obama people, and he ran the coup against President Trump. All these 4 years. So sooner or later, I believe the Republicans going to investigate his dealings, and together with Igor Pasternak and all the scammers who surrounded him.
Yeah.
And I know what.
$2,500 a plate, by the way, Igor.
Take it again.
As $2,500 a plate, Igor Pasternak charged at his house in California as a fundraiser for Adam Schiff. $2,500 a plate.
That's a good numbers. You know what I need to say? That's an area when Adam Schiff was elected, Hollywood. That's a complete mess, man. There's a homeless people living everywhere in the streets, and it's a very shitty, and it's like it's a dangerous even during the daytime. That was a bad all the way in Los Angeles, but now it's horrible. So Adam Schiff don't care. He care about. By the way, I think he's a little bit changing his mind now because the time is changes, and then in January he will see a lot of, I believe, subpoenas starting flying around him. I hope so.
Maybe his time should come. I mean, we actually just moved from we used to live in Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles for almost 10 years. And it got really bad. It is really, really bad. We covered everything that's been going on in Los Angeles. But I wanted to ask you this about the conflict, because we just saw that we almost went into World War III. I mean, via Poland, right? Because everybody in the Western media, Russia hit Poland with a missile. Russia did this. They didn't verify. It was all over the news. People were messaging me, why did Russia do this? I'm like, what are you talking about? And of course, obviously, we know that the missile came from Poland or from Ukraine. And we know that now, but it was so quickly just disseminated. The information was just thrown everywhere that Russia did this. And we have seen this happen time and time again via Ukraine's attempts to frame Russia. Russia has talked about the dirty bomb. They have also left Kherson City. So we see how Ukraine is doing this, the tactics that it's using to try to basically, even though we know Russia is facing the collective West via NATO in this conflict with Ukraine, there's an attempt to escalate this further by many people in this conflict, particularly Zelensky. But as you said, the tune is changing a little bit, actually, in regard to this conflict. Is there any fair criticism towards Russia that they haven't been aggressive enough in this conflict?
I believe that Russia is very restrained, and especially the political leadership and the military political leadership of Russia is very restrained. Because I read into a lot of hot polemic in the Russian media, and especially in Telegram chats, etc., but I didn't see any not restrained, very controlled actions on the field. So Russia know how badly we all will suffer if the World War III strategic one gonna happen. So they understand this, and that's why they deliver a tremendous level of restraint. And the Ukraine just need this war because nothing can prevent them from fall. They don't. And now it's in a winter start working and taking toll. So this is the Ukrainian situation. This is why they try to use every possible way of provocation, every possible. Now, today it was the nuclear power plant. They shelling the nuclear power plant. Before that was a Poland. Before that was a bridge. Before that was another things what they presenting as their victory. This is no victory for Ukraine against Russia. It's a mathematical solution. This is not the political solution. Doesn't matter how much money or weapons you can deliver, you still need the human power. So because no money, no weapons, fighting without people. And yes, they motivated to fight, they know, but they limited on the resources. And mathematically, this is Elon Musk who said it to Zelensky. Listen, dude, you need to start negotiate because you have no win in you. It's no projected win for you because you doesn't matter how much money we're gonna pump in you. Doesn't matter how much weapons. Did that weapons help Afghanistan? And in Afghanistan, the government forces was fighting against 300,000 of Taliban who practically know the men who know how to hoard the gods. They're great warriors, but this is not a Russian army even closer. So what I don't understand what that advisors of Zelensky hoping so. They hoping for only one thing, to initiate thermonuclear World War III, to diminish our population to the 500 million, to kill 200 million in immediate first 2 hours, and after that to destroy through the hunger billions. That's what they plan. You can call me the crazy, you can call me conspiracy theorist, but this is actually the plan. This is why they need Zelensky. This is why Russia is prepping for the long war. This is why it's not gonna end it up soon. Because we're dealing with the evil people. Behind of this Zelensky puppet, it's an evil people. Look at Victoria Nuland, because her name not Victoria. She has a Toria the Horrible. This is her real nickname inside of State Department, inside the people who know. It's a Chuck Norris, this is John Norris who called her like that, not me. They working together in a Talbot communication group when the Talbot was tried to deal with the Yugoslavia in 1999. She was so long before in the team of troublemakers around. She's a Cheney girl after, and she is like very skillful troublemaker, but she is an evil person, as well as all these other people around Obama.
Even her husband's a neocon crazy person, but I heard she makes good cookies and that she handed out on the Maidan with Jeffrey Pyatt. So I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? Good cookies.
You know what? The demons in the hell also making very good cookies. They can compete with Victoria Nuland when she will go to hell.
I just had the follow up to that because you said that these people want war. Obviously, people like Zelensky, they see no other choice. But we have seen the U.S. kind of shift its tune a bit, right? We've seen the official Mark Milley say that it is unlikely Ukraine will achieve a military victory. We have also seen a Ukrainian official say that a Ukrainian victory would require a black swan event, which he described, for example, as Putin disappearing, which is unlikely as well. So do you think that how does this conflict end then? I mean, how do you see this conflict ending? Is it like all out war? Or is there any possibility that perhaps even the US backs out, because they can't keep giving blank checks to Ukraine at some point, something's got to give, especially with Europeans protesting every day against sanctions and against the energy hikes that are happening because of the impediment of the cheaper gas into Europe.
You know what, Fiorella, it's a very good question. Why the establishment start to dumping Zelensky. Because, you know, it's the leftovers of sanity in the people's minds, who's sitting in Washington, who is sitting in Pentagon, and who's sitting in State Department. They start taking A to B to C, understanding, oh, we're not benefiting from this. We just prolonging that inevitable. And that's why we not start a negotiation, and they negotiate. I know what they negotiate. They negotiate behind the scene. Both parties do not disclose it, but I know about the generals from Pentagon talking to the Russians face to face. And I know the city in Europe when they're doing this, and I know the city in the Middle East when they're doing this. And so from time to time, they're achieving something. And after that, short actors like, you know, Boris Johnson, when Russia withdrew their troops from the Kiev, because agreement in Istanbul was completely reached. So they know the conditions of agreement. Both parties was agree. They try to make the freeze that conflict, and Boris Johnson visited the Kiev, and Zelensky saw no agreement. No, we're not gonna negotiate. We're not, because, and they do Bucha. They do false flag, another one. So this is a tactic. But you know what? I believe that same people in the United States need to take the signs with the Pacific sign and go to the Washington, to the Lafayette Park, and to block. If will be 5 million of us standing in a mall, standing around the White House for the 3 days, they will stop this war. We stopped it in 1973. I was not here, but I studied that a lot, Vietnam War, when the people completely ran away out of the raft, and a huge protest was in Washington, D.C. This is not a government who stopped. We are the people. We forced them to stop this war. So we need to do it again. We need to show that people in Washington and everywhere. So we're not happy with weapons sent to Ukraine. We're not happy with money sent to Ukraine, because this fire of war in Ukraine gonna extinguish in a few weeks, because they have no own weapon, they have no own money. This is a completely full 100% proxy war of United States against Russia. And the Europeans, they victims in this war. They industrialized the Germany. They destroyed the quality of life in France and in Italy and everywhere, and the Great Britain also mess. So this is what the goal of globalist is, just to kill the competitor and kill the Russian market of gas, what actually was benefiting for European economy. Now it's going to the next phase with oil. So it's not only the industrialization. Let's stop them use their cars. That's their plan. It's a horrible, evil people.
Well, our good friend said, Nabosha said, he said that Germans used to have to go to Stalingrad to freeze their ass off. Now they can just stay at home, because they are the true victims of this war. Igor, let everybody know what you got going on, where they can find you, buddy. Please.
Follow me on Twitter, please. Look on our YouTube channel, and be sane, be critical thinking, be aware that it's a lot of things going on. If you study deep, you will see totally different picture. I was so proud about one guy in Texas who said, I watched Ukraine on fire. I changed my mind 180 degrees. And now he's very active, and he is like very on the side of sanity and the side of freedom, real freedom, not the fake one, not the freedom of George Soros, well paid, carefully calculated and planted in your mind. So be aware.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and just remind everybody, what's the name of the next documentary that you have coming out?
Next documentary has a name, Ukraine, War and Peace. As a great Leo Tolstoy War and Peace masterpiece.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, we got a shot here, Igor, by the way. Igor, let me tell you something. Right now, there's been a push, and this is something we've been saying on this show for quite some time. How the hell do you have the money to fund the war when the homeless number is growing? Then the homeless number is so out of hand. We saw a video last week that went viral. There's another video out today. I think a lot of independents that are left-leaning that might have said, okay, we need to go over there and fight for democracy or yada, 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 the BS, the liberty stuff. I think they're starting to turn, realizing that we keep sending all this money. Now the FTX scandal comes into play, and everybody's highlighting the homelessness in this country. I think we have a shot to turn some heads around, Igor. So thank you so much. I suspect Ukraine on Fire is going to be watched a lot more coming up. I know it's on Rumble. They took it down on YouTube for a couple of weeks, but hopefully it's back up. So
it is on 17 platforms. The One American News Network showing us the Salem Media. I need to say that's a very good network when you can watch it. You can watch it on Amazon still. You can watch it on other platforms. We was taken down from the Apple TV and iTunes. Even we was a #1 documentary, in the #1 in the charts as a documentary for 2.5 months. We was bigger than anybody else, even unto Aberdeen Roadrunner. So they taken us out because they don't care about business. They care about just diminish the truth. YouTube still running. Rumble is working pretty well, more than 6 million views. We give up. We're doing great in Japan. We're going theatrical release in Japan. We just sell the rights for the sequel in German territory. It's important. We are talking with a Red Bull Media House and the TV channel in Austria about Ukrainian Fire. So we're quite in demand. You know, people want to see our film, and we take care about this every day. We see that viewership already. We calculate that 350 millions of people watch our film. It's a big success for me and my dear friend and partner Oliver Stone, and to everybody who did it film with me. I'm very proud.
You should be.
Well,
it's a great
we're
film.
proud. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've been talking.
Igor.
We've been talking Ukraine since 20. We started the show at what year, fam? 2016, right?
2017. But I mean, I've definitely followed it before then. I mean, this has been, you know, a long time coming. And being here in Moscow, and you know, I want to go to Donbass, and a lot of my friends have gone there. This is a big deal, and I think people need to be told the truth.
By the way, I'm also producing, and I helping the people in Donbass for filming. I helped one great, amazing, unbelievable director and photographer, and the Maxim Fadeev. So now we're going. We finished the filming. He finished the filming, and we now in the post-production. I pick up that project. It's called the Mariupol, on the Edge of Abyss, and I call it differently. I call it Platoon on the Edge of Abyss because it's a story of 9 people, and only 3 of them from them alive, 6 of them dead. So it's unbelievable anti-war film what we're gonna release soon in the TV series in Russia and the future worldwide. So I'm working on this.
Wow, that's awesome.
Footage. I screened that footage for my dear partner and teacher Oliver Stone. He loved it. He gave me a lot of advices, and we're working around the clock to make that anti-war film released in the spring. And as well, my Ukraine War and Peace is gonna be out in March or April, and you're gonna see all my previous speakers and somebody else.
We look forward to it, Igor.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for coming on, Igor.
Talk to you next. Yes.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.